There are reports tonight that some members of the special counsel team investigating alleged Russian collusion during the 2016 election may feel that the Attorney General is not adequately portraying the results of that investigation and the report. The administration is pushing back hard on anonymously sourced stories. This comes as Republican lawmakers are looking into the ethics of the investigation itself. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has details tonight.
The Justice Department issued a rare public statement taking issue with media accounts that the Mueller report contains summaries that were releasable. Quote, every page of the confidential report provided to Attorney General Barr on March 22, 2019 was marked may contain material protected under a law that protects confidential grand jury information and therefore could not be publicly released. The New York Times first reported some special counsel investigators told associates that their findings are far more negative than Barr's four-page summary released last month. A senior Democrat said it backs up his efforts to see the full report and secure Mueller's testimony.
There's some dissatisfaction over how accurately Barr represented the report, but again, the answer is, let's see it.
On Twitter, the president knocked the story, writing, the New York Times had no legitimate sources, which would be totally illegal concerning the Mueller report. In fact, they probably had no sources at all. Despite the president's tough talk about what he calls a witch hunt, one of the president's former attorneys told a podcast the president was nothing but cooperative in the Mueller investigation.
All this, what I call mainstream knee-jerk theories, these wild theories that he was really trying to get rid of Bob, that was nonsense.
Separately, these letters obtained by Fox News show Republican Senators Grassley and Graham alerted Barr last month that congressional investigators uncovered evidence of potential improper political influence, misconduct, and mismanagement in the Russia probes. Fox News understands the senators wanted Barr to have the information before he reviewed Mueller's findings. After congressional investigators alleged special counsel prosecutors used selective quotes in court filings to create the most negative interpretation possible. This 2017 letter shows Grassley directly warned Mueller, citing emails from Trump campaign aide George Papadopoulos, among others, about traveling to Russia during the presidential race. Quote, in the full context, the emails in question actually show that the Trump campaign wanted someone low-level to decline these types of invitations.
On the Mueller report's delivery to Congress, there is significant time pressure. At the end of next week, both the House and Senate go on recess. Sources tell Fox News Justice Department officials hope to complete their review in coming days, meeting the Attorney General's goal of mid-April. Brett.
Captain, thank you.
Another man who was relentlessly maligned on false grounds is Michael Caputo, who's also an advisor to the Trump campaign, and he joins us tonight. Michael, thanks very much for coming on. You've been sharing with us through the course of this what it's like to be you. And I wonder, looking back, now that you have been, in effect, vindicated, you were not working, and neither was anyone working for the U.S. government, for rather the Russian government. How do you feel?
Well, I do feel vindicated, but, you know, I spent Tuesday at the police station in my little village in western New York pressing charges against someone for threatening me on Facebook. You know, this has not ended yet. You know, I'm pretty sure that the rest of us, Carter Page and J.D. Gordon and the rest are all suffering the same slings and arrows I am. You know, we may have been vindicated by the Mueller investigation, but I don't know where we're going to get our reputations back.
So, I mean, what can you do to, I mean, you've lost years of your life. Your family, as you've told us before, has been besieged. You can't work a normal job because of this. Is there anything that you can do to make it right at this stage?
Well, I think that I can try to help the federal government and the Republican Party and the Senate try to uncover what really happened here. I mean, I'd love to get back to work. I'm contacting my old clients who had to leave me because of this mark on my record. But now that I'm vindicated, you know, while I really want to get back to work and make money for my family, I really want to inspire some significant change in the special counsel law and other ways so people don't go through this again. I love Carter's, by the way, Carter's optimism. I'm just a little bit more angry than he is, I think.
Well, I'm angry just watching it. I was only denounced as a Russian spy once by a buffoon, that chairman of the House Intel Committee. I can't imagine what your life has been like. I've thought of you this whole time. So congratulations anyway, because this is, whether it feels like it or not, a vindication.
I just want to say one thing, Tucker. Pardon General Flynn, pardon George Papadopoulos, and pardon Roger Stone right now, Mr. President.
That's exactly right.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree with. Don't wait till after the election. Do it now. They deserve it now.
Do it right now. Do it right now on Twitter.
I agree. I agree. Michael Peel, thank you.
That would blow some minds, wouldn't it?
It would.
The Daily Caller tonight reporting that the Soros-backed Democracy Integrity Project paid firms tied to Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele, the foreign agent, a whopping $3.8 million in 2017. Why? To dig up dirt on, quote, government entities. Now, despite all that we have uncovered night after night, James Comey, he's continuing to remain defiant, insisting that he has nothing to hide. Tried to remind him many times, Jimbo, you have the right to remain quiet. You may want to exercise that right as you dig a deeper hole every day. Like, signing off on a FISA warrant, saying it's verified, and telling Trump it's salacious but unverified months later. Take a look.
Investigate what? Investigate that investigations were conducted, and what would be the crime you'd be investigating? So it's a terrible cycle to start. He's already started it with calling for the locking up of his political opponents, including people like me. And so it would just be more of that dangerous step. And I would hope, although they continue to disappoint me, the Republicans would finally stand up and say, we don't do that kind of thing. But me personally, ask me questions. Go ahead. I'd like to answer them in the daylight if I could.
I'd like to see that, too, because now we know a lot more than we did before. Here with reaction, Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, Senator Lindsey Graham. When the president was on this program last week, Senator, the president said very clearly there will be a cascade of information. Doug Collins today releasing yet another closed-door testimony, Bill Priestap, in this particular case, very revealing. Then we're going to get the FISA applications, aren't we? The ones that the Grassley-Graham memo said the bulk of information came from the phony Hillary bought and paid for Russian dossier. Interesting. Then we're going to have Gang of Eight information, and we'll get 302 information. Democrats aren't asking for that transparency, but we will get it, and you will continue. You've made that promise to us.
Yeah, well, let me tell you why. Because millions of Americans believe at the top level of the Department of Justice and the FBI, they wanted Clinton to win and Trump to lose. They manipulated the law to let her off, manipulated the facts in the law to go after Trump. And that's a big deal to a lot of people, Republicans and some independents. So I promise you, former Director Comey will get to testify in the light of day. I'll ask him about the dossier. Was it the chief reason you got a warrant against Carter Page? Is it verified to this day? If there's a counterintelligence investigation opened against the Trump campaign, why didn't you tell Trump about it so he could do something like you told Feinstein? And at the end of the day, how could you write that Clinton did nothing wrong even before you interviewed her? And why did you interview her with two people in the room, her aides, and not under oath? Most people don't get that treatment.
All right. So the important thing is your committee will take over where the House Intel Committee left off, so it gives you a big leg up. But then I don't know at what point a lot of this information will be released. I believe the president is serious when he says that that information is coming out. You raise a lot of other questions with Comey. I would argue, as Greg Jarrett and others, lawyers on this program have argued, that there is a vulnerability for Comey. There's a vulnerability for Strzok and Page. There is a vulnerability for McCabe. We know criminal referrals will be coming this week from Devin Nunes, a number of them.
So criminality, it's not my job to find out if crimes were committed. It's my job as oversight of the executive branch. Did they bend the rules? Did they break the rules to get an outcome? Did they mislead the FISA court? Do we need to change the rules about FISA courts? Are there any rules at all about counterintelligence operations? Why didn't you not tell Trump? You told Feinstein she had somebody on her staff working with China. Why didn't you go to Trump and tell him about suspicions about Russia? Was it a backdoor attempt to get in his campaign? Some prosecutor, not a politician, needs to look at Comey, McCabe, and all of these characters to find out if, in fact, they broke the law. And I'm hoping Attorney General Barr will assign somebody to this case with the same resources and commitment to look at them as Mueller had to look at Trump.
Let's look real quickly at the border crisis that is going on, even hearing from Barack Obama's Director of Homeland Security yesterday, Mark, who we had on earlier in the program. Real crisis. But Donald Trump, his veto was not overridden. That money will be reappropriated, $9 billion. President tried to work with Democrats. The things they say they wanted, they wouldn't sit down with him. In a way, it's actually a bigger victory for the president, more money than he ever dreamed of, probably enough to get a real good chunk of this done and complete. But I think these other countries see what's happening, and they're trying to get to that border as quickly as possible, knowing it won't be open as long as maybe they thought.
So I asked the head of the Border Patrol, do you need a wall? And he said, absolutely. So the president stood firm. He has more money for a wall than he's ever had because he's willing to declare an emergency, and there is one. But he also said, if you don't change our laws, the wall won't work. Right now, if you step 1 foot into the United States and claim asylum, you're entitled to a hearing. We have no place to put you, and we release you in the country. If you come here with children, you can only be held 20 days. We release you because we have no place to put you. That's why we're being overrun by people from the Triangle countries, because we can't deport you back to those countries. If you don't change that, you never fix this, and I hope Democrats will help us.
All right, Lindsey Graham, thank you. We appreciate your commitment to go forward, get to the truth, and those that violated laws, they need to be held accountable. We will do that on this program, as we have promised you.